Let's go to Seattle. And I don't think that Niko made it to Spokane last night. I don't think he made it to Spokane. You went to Spokane? Oh my God! That's why you're dragging this morning. Okay, it is 42 after the hour, and he's probably on cup number 3. Are you on cup number 3, my friend?
Hey, what's going on, John? Hopefully I don't have any lag because it's a coincidence that I'm up. This is actually cup number 1. I'm up because my wife, she's the hero today. She saved the show because I got here at 4:30 in the morning. So I have about an hour and a little bit of sleep. And she just happened to say, hey, do you got something going on this morning? And so here I am. Wow. But I am in no sleep, cup number 1 of coffee, but excited after a huge win for the Sounders in a venue that was extremely interesting. So I'm excited to talk to you, but I want you to run the show as you always do, John. So let me know where you want to start.
Okay, so I'll start with the interesting venue in Spokane last night. Lay that out for us. We know what happened at the end of it all, but what was it like there last night?
Oh, it was phenomenal. Am I coming in okay? I feel a little bit of
It sounds good so far. If you do, then we'll change it up, but you're good so far.
Excellent. Look, the venue was very intimate, and he felt very Thursday night football because apparently this stadium is a high school stadium. Sure, you have the Velocity that play there, but in the region, in the city of Spokane, this is used for big high school matchups. It's like the one nice stadium that you go to when there's a big high school game, and so it had that sort of feel. So for the Sounder fan base, it felt a lot like a Starfire game, just a nicer type of Starfire. But it was phenomenal. The people, the crowd was great. We did a pregame show at Flat Stick Pub there in Spokane, and people really came out. There was tons of people. You could see the rave green kind of take over the city. I heard from Paul Rothrock that his sister told him that just about everybody in Spokane had at least 2 Sounder gear walking around the city. So it was an atmosphere, right? I thought it was great. It was very interesting. But what really came out to shine in this particular game was the Sound once again find a way. It wasn't perfect. It hasn't been perfect. I think that Brian Spencer looked annoyed, sounded annoyed about the fact that his team hasn't been able to control games better, control the possession, really be a team that dominates or that probably executes the game plan the way he wanted. Because in this particular game,
now it froze. Okay, so there it froze. I will. There we go. Okay, so this will be where Niko comes up with his alternative form of transportation. And so we're getting into what happened. And so with Seattle winning the 2 legs, they are waiting on the winner low right of Tigres and FC Cincinnati. Once again, that's 9 o'clock tonight. And Cincinnati is favored. They're up 3-0 after 1 leg. They're going to Tigres. Tigres obviously is favored in the match tonight, on match night, but it is over the 2 legs themselves. Right now, it's a 3-0 deficit that they've got to come after. And so I was discussing what's going to be happening after what happened last night. Seattle's now waiting for the winner of Tigres and FC Cincinnati. It's a big roadie for FC Cincinnati, but Tigres has 3 goals to make up for as Seattle waits for the winner of that one.
Yes. And so all in all, aside from the venue and how interesting it felt, and it felt very CONCACAF-ish, I'll tell you right now, it felt very CONCACAF-ish. I thought that the game itself was very good because the Sounders, again, I said, they found a way. The turning point in this game for the Sounders was the substitutions made by Brian Smetzer, and you have to give him credit. The game was a little bit sloppy. Seattle had issues in possession, and he was getting a little bit winded at one point in the game, and Brian Smetzer he kind of touched on it. He mentioned that he expects his starters to run as hard as they can for as long as they can, and I think he maybe indicated that that's not what he saw out of the team necessarily. So he brought in some really good spark plug type of players, but specifically Paul Rothrock. That's his job. He's been doing that from the very beginning with this club, and as soon as he came in, he was the difference maker. But the big story was Peter Kingston. Peter Kingston, it was interesting to see Brian Smetzer trust a guy like Peter Kingston that isn't necessarily a part of the team in terms of not having a first team contract. He's extremely young, but the kid came in and put in the shift. I mean, he was involved in both of two out of the three goals that happened there at the end. The first one is a phenomenal move that he gets out of being pressured by two defenders. He gets to the end line, puts in a great cross, and Danny Musovski puts the ball away. So Peter Kingston shines. Paul Rothrock was given the man of the match per CONCACAF, but even Paulie Primetime said, look, I thought Peter should have got it there. So it was very Seattle-like in that there's always these unsung heroes, and the Sounders just know how to develop center midfielders. I mean, we've been talking about Snyder Brunell for, the entirety of the season, and now we're talking about Peter Kingston, another player from the pipeline that is going to come in, perform, and is likely going to get a first-team contract.
Crazy that we're in 45 last night, and so I think he was probably playing at 78 speed, even if he was listed as number 45. So big win on the road, and you move on, and now you wait. You figure out what it's going to look like, if it's going to be Cincinnati or if it's going to be Tigres. Now, with that being what it was last night, your starting lineup, once again, just as a refresher: in net, Stephen Fry, Nuhu, Jackson Reagan, Alex Roldan, and KKR at the back. Brunel and the other Roldan in front of them. Three midfielders: Ariella Rusnak, Ferreira, and Osaza de Rosario was your starting 11. On the bench, you had Musovski, who scored, Rothrock, who scored, Andrew Thomas. You had Max Anchor, Cody Baker, Georgi Munungu, Nikola Petkovic, Sebastian Gomez, Antino Lopez, who was also signed, and that made news heading into this matchup, and then Peter Kingston. Coming into this weekend with Seattle, how do you think that midweek may or may not even affect the matchup that's going to be going on at Minnesota, 2:30 Sunday afternoon? How different do you think it's going to be?
It's going to look very different in Minnesota. It's going to look a lot like the San Jose game. And if there has been a newfound equation that Brian has been able to put together, and it results in wins, especially road wins, it has been trust in the depth of his team. Look, we talked about how this team had a high floor, how the chemistry and the continuity was going to be important for this team to hit the floor running. And it has absolutely panned out that way. So with a guy like Tino Lopez just getting signed after a phenomenal game against San Jose, with Cody Baker playing as good as he did against San Jose, with obviously, Peter Kingston, who we just talked about, who came in and played about 30, I think you're going to see a lineup that's very close to what we saw against San Jose. Now, this is me thinking in the brain of Brian and kind of going with what we've seen so far, because we've yet to see a training session so far, obviously, after the game last night. But I do think that there's going to be a heavily rotated team to allow this starting 11 to get some rest and continue to put this last part of the roster or the deeper part of the roster to continue to perform, and for Brian and the organization to see what they can get out of a Nikola Petkovic, out of a Georgi Munungu, who didn't play last night. Maybe we'll see Jordan Morris, by the way. Jordan Morris has been in statements by Brian Smetzer that he could potentially get some minutes. And he even mentioned that he could have been part of the Spokane game. Obviously, he wasn't part of the available players for the Spokane game last night. But I do think that Minnesota, we're going to see, or we might be able to see, Jordan Morris at least on the bench. Another player that you're going to see likely, again, we don't know for sure because we haven't been at training facility, is Hassani Dotson. Hassani has been in that concussion protocol. He hasn't been playing. Snyder Burnell put up another great shift last night. So did Christian Roldan. So I think Hassani is another player that you might see as part of that rotation. Brian mentioned last week that Hassani has that Minnesota game in his calendar checked in. I'm sure that he wants to go back to Minnesota and give that team the business if he can help it. So that's how it might look different.
Okay. The rest of CONCACAF, we kind of glossed through in hour number one the scores from last night. Nashville ends up 1-1 draw, the away goal making the difference. They advance, drawing Messi and Friends 1-1. Messi and Friends once again, they just crash out when you have everybody sitting there and looking at, hey, we want to do this. We're bringing in all these players. We want to win titles. We want to be, a hemispheric force. Nashville gets a goal, bumps them out. So Miami's done in CONCACAF. So that means no CONCACAF Champions League, no championship, no Club World Cup, no nothing. You got to wait another year. Then you end up with Club America, 1-1 draw. They were 1-0 on the road. They advance after they knock out Philly. Then you have also late Toluca dropping the hammer in the second half on San Diego FC. 3-2 going in for San Diego FC, 6-3 coming out. Toluca wins at 4-0. Of those other games that happened last night in CONCACAF, what sticks in your head?
It has to be Nashville. I mean, it has to be Miami building this roster, approaching this season with one objective, in my opinion, and it was conquering CONCACAF Champions Cup. Mm-hmm. And they were unable to do it. Berterame continues to not be able to score with this team. Messi continues to have the heavy load part of the attacking components. This is a team that has struggled to manage the games and handle the pressure. First game was obviously a 0-0 draw. In this one, I thought that Nashville had a lot of moments, but even when Miami scores first, you knew that all you needed at Nashville was one more goal. And then they get a howler from Nashville, and they're able to put away Miami. So the storyline here and the most interesting thing about it is BJ Callahan finding a way to push them through, and Inter Miami and Mascherano, who now is under a lot of heat, being unable to do it with all the millions, all of the new players, all of the hype, all of the environment that you have built out of Jorge Mas, aka Jerry Jones of MLS, and the team falls a little bit short. The last thing I want to say about CONCACAF as well, and it's something that we didn't touch on that I think is important for your audience to know, John, is that when you look at the games tonight and think about the Sounders potentially hosting that second leg of the next round, as of last night, no one is committing to where the Sounders are going to play. So you could see another Spokane game, perhaps. There's definitely, we didn't hear confidence from anyone that we tried to talk to that the game was going to be played at Lumen Field. So that's something to watch moving forward when it comes to the Sounders hosting this, the second leg likely of the next round of CONCACAF Cup.
All right. Now, I don't know if you have your hydration there with you for the morning. I don't know if you so yes, hydrate while I set up Major League Soccer for the weekend. Figured you might need that. For the weekend, after we get through Open Cup and everything, you're looking out west. You've got Copa Tejas, which could be very spicy with Dallas and Houston. I'm thinking there's a lot of goals that could be in that one. You've got Austin and LAFC, Vancouver and San Jose. That's on Saturday. We mentioned Seattle at Minnesota on Sunday. LAG, because of their late start in CONCACAF, goes to Portland. San Diego hosting Salt Lake on Sunday. Any games that you want to talk about to start out in particular?
Yeah, I'd say I like a lot of these. I'm interested in the Texas rivalry more than I would most times because, funny enough, Dallas has been a surprise for me. I didn't think that they were going to be this exciting, and they've been able to manage some games, handle some results, and then draw against arguably the best team in the Western Conference in San Diego, a 3-3 draw that I did not have in my bingo cards. Peter Musa seems to be a guy that's on a heater. They are not an exciting team, but they definitely are effective in what they want to do on the ball. So on the other side, you do have a little bit of an interesting team that is exciting with all the new acquisitions in Houston. So I really like that matchup. I am high on Houston, though, and I think that they will be able to break down the barriers. And actually, I think that they're going to keep a clean sheet against Dallas, and I think that they're going to get this win. So that one's interesting for me. The other one was the Nashville Orlando. I see a lot of people hyped up on the change of managers, but usually that bump is in game one and not game two. So I know that there's going to be a rotated lineup. I know that there's a midweek game that you have to account for Nashville, but I like Nashville. I like Nashville against a purple team. I when it comes to that coach bump, I always look at that second game, and I think that you're going to get a little bit of a reality check there. So I like Nashville as well on that one.
Nashville is a minus 175. So this is just going to be a game to look at. It's not going to be a game
just to look at.
Look and don't touch. Draw is a plus 350. Purple team is a plus 430. You've got in the East, and I'll work my way through the schedule. In the East, you've got the Baby Bulls in Charlotte. And Baby Bulls are a plus 260, by the way, at Charlotte. Charlotte is a plus 114, so they're favored. Copa Tejas, you mentioned. Dallas is favored at a plus 120. Draw is a plus 270. Houston is a plus 220. Now, you said that you think Houston's defense is going to lock FCD down. So let's check our numbers, shall we? In addition to everything else that we like to do. So if you're under 1.5, you're at a plus 333. If you're under 2, it's a plus 229, and then it starts to even out a little bit. 2.5 under is a plus 110, and that's where it flips. If you're into goals, 3.5 over is a plus 165, and then it goes north from there. So there's a little wiggle room if you think that the two keepers are going to show up here in this one, or if you think there's going to be goals. They're setting 3.5 as that number on the plus side. So I think you got folks that are kind of split in their ideas right now.
I think so too, and I don't know if I would take the goals in this one, although I do think that Houston's going to find their mojo defensively against a Dallas team that I think can be streaky regardless of how good Peter Musa is. I have a lot of respect for the way Olsen eliminates certain players, and I think that he is going to do it there in a rivalry game that are always different. People are probably like, Niko, where are you getting this? It's just my gut feeling on a lot of the rivalry games. A lot of times don't follow the same trend as is usually happening, and I just have a gut feeling on this one.
All right, Austin, late night. It is an 8:55, so I'm guessing that's on Big FOX. Austin at Q2, hosting LAFC. Austin is a plus 290. LAFC is even money plus 100 heading into Q2.
How about the goals?
Goals, let's check, because I was looking at this one and I'm going, oh, man, I don't know. I don't know if I want to touch it. But let's check the goals and see what it looks like here early. 2.5 is a minus 118, and that's when the magic happens. 3.5 is a plus 200. So if you're thinking 3-1, 2-2, plus 200. 4 is a plus 4.25. 4.5 is a plus 500. So they're not thinking a whole lot of goals, but they're thinking you could get a decent number scored. 3.5 is a plus 200. I think that's probably where your margin is.
Yeah, look, lock me in for the 3.5 and LAFC. Mm-hmm. I believe that there has been a lot of, I don't know what to call it. I don't want to call it unfair criticism because it is fair to talk about this LAFC team perhaps not putting up as many goals as you're used to seeing LAFC do. But I think that the chance creation has been there. It was there in the MLS action of last weekend. It was there against Alajuelense. But there has been a lack of execution in front of goal. And that doesn't fall on the coach. That falls on the players. If you are missing a clear chance right in front of goal, like Buanga did early on in the MLS action weekend, and you can't put it away, or against Alajuelense where you put it on the crossbar, that doesn't necessarily go to the tactics. It goes to the execution. But I do think that there has been such a volume that Buanga, Sonny, and this LAFC team is just a matter of time when they find it. It's not about if, it's when they're going to be able to actually put away those chances. And I think it's going to be against Austin. Unfortunately for El Verde, which, I really, really like Austin, love the fan base. But I do think that in this particular game, it's going to be a fun one. But I do think the LAFC is going to break that habit of missing opportunities. And I think that they're going to put a really good performance against Austin.
Sunday, Messi and friends go to the 106 by 68, and they take on NYC. I don't know how mad they're going to be going into this one. They're a plus 200. So they're coming off a loss, or they're coming out of getting bounced out of the CONCACAF Hemispheric Extravaganza. So they're going to be pissed. And then they're going to the 106 by 68 to take on NYC. They're a plus 200 on the road against NYC, who's a plus 120.
Yeah, that's trap game for me. What's the draw on that?
Plus 275.
Yeah, I like the draw. On this one. I think that Javier Mascherano is going to really question himself, and I think that he's going to try to maybe do some things that he believes are going to be good for the team to kind of shake it up a bit. And I think New York is a really good team that manages games pretty well. And they've been a surprise for me as well. I didn't think that they were going to manage Alonso Martinez's absence in the way that they have. I think Niko Fernandez has been better than I thought that he was going to be to start off the season at the very least. So I think this is one that's going to be maybe a 1-1 draw, but I do think that it's going to be even at the end of the game.
All right, then the late night is Sunday Night Soccer. San Diego, who's going to be shell-shocked maybe, mad maybe. They're at home. RSL, who is yet to kind of figure things out on the road. They are a plus 340. San Diego at home at the Murph Dragon is a minus 133. I don't know how to read San Diego in this one. I really don't.
I don't either. I'm curious on how they're going to respond after getting 4-0'd against Toluca. I do think that there's going to be some mandatory rotation for them. And I actually think I'm very high on RSL and some of the things that they do. So to me, this is going to be another draw for the weekend. I like what Real Salt Lake does defensively and putting teams under pressure against the run of play at times. And I do think that they have a lot of great white players that might make it difficult, or it might make it very difficult for San Diego's press to be as effective as it typically is. They're going to be very direct, I think, with the ball, and they're going to try to get behind that back line for San Diego. So for me, this is going to be a draw, but it's going to be an interesting game because I don't know how San Diego will respond to that midweek result.
Plus 300 on the draw, so hang out and keep an ear out. I know, that's what I'm saying. That one kind of came up and bit me a little bit at a plus 300. I was shocked on that one.
What about? I have another lock for you, but you just got to give me the over on the 3.5, if not 4.5, for the Portland Galaxy game.
Yeah, I figured you might be going there. So let me check that out real quick. Over under 3.5 is a plus 120. 4.5 is a plus 275. So you're at 3.5. You're in the plus. And so 3.5 and higher, you're in the plus on that one, but 3.5 is a plus 120.
Yeah, let's go. Let's go with the 4.5. Let's go with the 4.5. LA Galaxy is another team that has been bitten by some poor execution. But Timbers are such an open team, and they're just so gappy. I'm waiting for Phil Neville to be let go. I don't know what the Timbers are waiting for. Maybe this is way too hot for this early in the morning, but I just haven't seen an improvement from Portland, and they just continue to allow this guy to throw his guys under the bus. And you could, sing church and tell me that that's not what you meant. You were just trying to get them fired up. But when you're calling your team kids and all of this stuff, I think his time is up. And maybe LA Galaxy does it. Maybe it's Greg Vanney that puts enough goals away on that Portland team that finally Phil Neville goes. Because I still don't understand how Oscar Pareja was let go before Phil Neville. I mean, I explain that to me. Make it make sense, John. Make it make sense.
I can't. I mean, and we played during, and we're going to have Mike Gramajo from West TV in Orlando on with us, bat and lead off tomorrow to talk about it. But on media day, and I still have this sound, and I played it after Oscar was dismissed. On media day, Oscar was mad about lack of transactions, always needing more players, all this kind of stuff. So he was not looking forward to the season as far back as media day and let everybody know it. And if things were that bad, if they were that untenable at the end of the year, I guess, and then after you go through training camp and everything, if things were that, if things were that itchy for him at media day, and you bring in the 3 U22s from Brazil, and I get that, and you bring in Griffin Dorsey, and you're bringing in all these players, yet you only want to be patient enough for 3 matches. And yes, I know that I thought he might get tarmacked after losing 5-0 to NYC, but the defense doesn't exist. The defense, there are issues with the defense there in Orlando, and I don't know where. It's like if you were that mad, why didn't you do something in the offseason? Because if you're only going to give him 3 matches in the new season with all the new players that he's got, then what's going on? Why only 3? Why not be patient? Why not give him to the international break? Why not give him to the World Cup or whatever? It didn't make sense on a couple of different levels to me. And it's a head scratcher just because if you were that mad, why didn't you get rid of him at the end of last year? But then you have faith in him and he's still not happy. And then you only go 3 matches in 26. So I'm as confused as you are where Oscar Pareja is concerned.
Yeah. And I think he was scapegoated. I really do think that he was kept just in case things didn't go the way that they wanted. They had somebody just put the blame on. And that's what they ended up doing with Oscar. So it does feel out of character. It feels, the timing is just off. And for me, I just can't fathom. And that's why I'm so sure that they're going to realize where this team really is at after that first game where everybody was like, oh, it was change of attitude. It's all about, coaching and all these things. Let the season get a little bit longer, and then we'll talk some more, because I do think that this Orlando team is going to have bigger trouble down the road.
All right, what's going on after you take your nap and file everything that you're supposed to file, and you've had your other 2 cups of coffee? What's going on Sounder at Heart and Pulso Sports?
Yeah, well, I am going to take advantage of me waking up for this show to upload everything that I didn't upload, because I left right after the game and made a 5-hour drive down here. And so I did not prioritize putting up the videos, but we got some great videos. We got Craig Weibel talking right before the Spokane game. We have everything after. We talked to Brian Smetzer, Paulie Primetime one. That one was really fun. He talks about being from Spokane, family members that came out, the death of a family member that happened, and this game kind of coming across at a time where his family could get together, go to a game, and kind of get past that rough moment. So some really, really good ones there. Talked to Christian Roldan about leaving to the March camp and leaving right after the Minnesota game. So that's going to be a good one. So you're going to be able to see those videos on Pulso Sports and our YouTube channel. I also encourage you guys to go take a look at Lobbin Scorchers. We did the pregame show at Pub, I think that's what it is. Well, whatever. Flat Stick Pub. We did it there, so it's gonna be fun. I really recommend you guys watch it. They also had the post game show, and then later on tomorrow, So tomorrow, maybe afternoon, we'll put out what we learned this week, where we'll definitely break down the game that will be in Minnesota. We'll have a much better idea on who's available, who's not available, some injury updates. Ken Hassani played that game. You do not want to miss what we learned this week with Jeremiah Oshan on Friday. Probably around 6 is when we put it out. And then, of course, on Monday, the kickoff, where we'll talk about the week that was and how the games came around with Ari Lillenwall on Love and Scorchers.
And you're going to go get a nap or get 2 more cups of coffee in your system and file everything. As always, thank the boss for jarring you out of your sleep so you could come and join us on your Thursdays as you always do. Love you very much, my friend, and we'll catch up with you next week.
Appreciate it, Jen. I wouldn't do it for anybody else sitting here with maybe an hour of sleep. Maybe.
Oh, you're braver than I am. Get your rest. We'll see you soon.
Yes, sir.